So FBI agents continued going door-to-door questioning neighbors, and at this time, Savannah also released a fourth video to the alleged abductors, pleading for their mother's return, saying something in which I believe was a personal message to somebody I believe they may know or have some sort of history with. But it was, again, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, that sentiment of like partnership or cooperation, like, there's still time. We can figure this out. You're a good person. Like things like that, to where it feels like maybe the plea isn't to somebody super random and unknown. And I could totally be wrong, but that's just what I gathered through it. So then at the top of the week, TMZ received a fourth ransom letter. Law enforcement also announced that they have identified the Ozark Trail backpack that was seen in that surveillance footage, and that it is exclusively and actively sold at Walmart. So they are actively working with the company to retrieve evidence or identify people who had purchased that backpack in nearby stores and also online. Sheriff Chris Nanos also gave a statement that the Guthrie family, including all siblings and all spouses, have been cleared as possible suspects in the case. And that was very important because if you remember early on, if you've been following this, there was a lot of speculation that the brother-in-law was somehow involved. And so they made it vocal that, they have been cleared. Later in the week, law enforcement announced that they have identified that backpack. Like I said, they're still looking to see who, could have bought it. They're tracking down receipts, all of that. And they also tried to ping Nancy's pacemaker. They clarified that they have no evidence that Nancy was taken to Mexico, despite a lot of reports at that point saying that she could have been taken to Mexico or that this was cartel related. And there was also a fourth anonymous letter that had been sent to TMZ alleging that somehow Mexico was in the loop with all of this. So one of the attorneys who is currently representing the three potential persons of interest who were detained by law enforcement back in the SWAT raid identified his client as Luke Daly. So social media then took off with theories regarding Luke and his relationship with somebody in Nancy's family, I believe. So law enforcement announced that they received more than 20,000 tips, and they encouraged the public to keep sending information regarding the case. Meanwhile, online sleuths started to notice an inconsistency in the timeline based on a timestamp on the Pima County Evidence Submission Portal, which actually listed the missing person report was filed on January 31st at 7 p.m., which was Saturday, and not Sunday. But very quickly, the Sheriff's Department clarified that the reason that timestamp was shown on the official evidence submission portal, they said it doesn't represent the missing person report, and that the public portal automatically converts timestamps to the viewer's browser's time zone. So that's why people were, I guess, seeing different times like 5 p.m. versus 7 p.m. and different things like that. So helicopters were then seen hovering over a landfill, which also prompted online sleuths to believe that Nancy's body might be located there. And one of the people who were flying the helicopters clarified that he flew over the landfill to actually use a laser and do some sort of mapping. He insisted that it was not Nancy Guthrie related, but he also said that he would be happy to assist with the search. Around this same time, private search parties began, and volunteer search groups were frustrated with the lack of progress on the case, so they began organizing their own search parties. However, per the sheriff, they were asked to please give investigators the space that they needed to work, saying, quote, "We appreciate their concern and we all want to find Nancy, but this work is best left to professionals. PCSD has volunteer opportunities if they do wish to get involved with the department." So what's interesting, though, is that within hours of volunteer searches, they recovered a black backpack in a bush near Nancy's house, and they turned it over to law enforcement, who collected the backpack as evidence.